Welcome to our UFL show. I'm RJ Young, host here. And you know what? I want to get straight to what I think is a fantastic interview with former Nebraska Huskers quarterback and Birmingham Stallions quarterback, Adrian Martinez, who has set this league on fire. Let's talk to Adrian. I'm pleased to be joined by Birmingham Stallions quarterback, Adrian Martinez. Adrian, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Appreciate you having me.
Nah, man, it's my pleasure to have you on the show. I want to start with this, dog. You are the only player in the UFL to pass for 300 yards in a game. You're also the only player pass for 350. You're also the only quarterback to rush for 150. What is it about playing for the Birmingham Stallions that has reminded everybody how you went for 234 passing 148 in a beatdown of my Oklahoma Sooners?
Yeah, well, I really give a lot of credit to Skip, our head coach, and obviously the team around. I mean, we have a lot of dynamic players, guys who can make plays. And when you have that in place, I think it gives me, the quarterback, a lot of confidence.
You remind me of that dude that I was watching tape of at Clovis West all of a sudden, right? It's that guy that we are just afraid of, what he's going to do with his arm, what he's going to do with his legs. And I thought you got to showcase that against Memphis when they chose to spy you with a corner, which, okay, that's one way of going about it. But when you got those playmakers out there, how do you make these decisions? How do you assess what the defense is giving you? And what are those guys on the sidelines contributing to help with that?
Yeah, well, I think you hit on it. And it's that we want to take what the defense has given us. So if they want to spy a robber down, I mean, and they want to press our guys who we feel really good about, like Dion and like Kevin, Jace, like I said, a lot of playmakers, and let's make it happen through the air. You know, they want to try and take away my running ability. We can do it through the air, and I think we've been able to prove that. And then on the flip side, when we played Houston, they wanted to sit back in coverage. They want to try and take away the pass game. And so there's a lot of rushing lanes, and that's the result of that. And I think that's part of what makes this offense so dynamic is we're not pigeonholed into one way of getting it done. We just want to win. We want to produce, and we'll find a way to do it.
So you mentioned a dude who went to Clemson, a dude who went to Notre Dame, a dude that was an All-American at A&M. The talent on that roster is always eye-popping to me, and I give a lot of credit to Coach Holtz and Zach Potter. But when you look at the guys on that team and you go, wow, that's all conference, that's All-American, that dude's got a national championship, what do you think?
Yeah, well, that was part of the reason why I chose to come here. Part of the reason why I wanted to be a Stallion is because Skip's done it before. And I mean, something he prides himself on, as well as Zach Potter, our GM, is getting guys to the NFL, which is where we all want to be. And so playing with guys with that similar type mindset, everyone's hungry in here. Everyone's had success, but ultimately not where they want to be. And I think the way we've been able to build chemistry through that is part of why we're so successful.
Do you think you put enough on tape to earn a spot on a 53-man roster in the NFL?
Not yet. Not yet. You know, I am far from complacent with where we are, and I know this team feels the same way. We're 6-0 right now, but we have a couple big tests coming up, including this week we play the Battlehawks, get them at home, and there's a lot left to be accomplished. And I think for me personally, there's still some things I really need to prove.
One of the things you mentioned about why you chose to come to Birmingham is the talent around them, but I also have to mention this winning pedigree. We are a week away from this team having not lost a game in a calendar year. Now, y'all got a big one against St. Louis, and I understand that. But knowing what the pedigree of this football team has been over the last 3 years, and then you joining up at this point, what do you think separates the Birmingham Stallions as what I think of as the first dynasty of spring football?
Yeah, well, we have a 1-0 mentality, and we understand the history behind this team, and there's been some carryover. I'd say it's probably 50% from each year. You know, guys who played on the team the previous year. And despite that, we have a 1-0 mentality, and that's what's led us to success. We don't get too far ahead. We don't look too far in the past. It's about the right now. It's about what can we prove right now? What can we do to win this game today, this week? And I really credit, again, to our coaching staff. It's Coach Montgomery. It's Coach Jones. It's Coach Skip. The guys on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, we share that mindset. And again, I mean, I love being around people who are hungry to prove something, hungry to get better, so that they continue to strive to be their best.
We mentioned the roster and the talent, and you made multiple mentions to the coaching staff. And I'm thinking about some of the guys you got there, right? Not just Coach Montgomery and Coach Holtz and Coach Jones, but also John Chavis on that defense. I wonder, though, I want to get to the offense. I get to see you on the sideline having conversations with Matt Corral, with J. Smith, with Coach Holtz. But you've told me that Philip Montgomery is the guy in the headset, and I've got history. He was the head coach at the University of Tulsa, had a great run at Baylor as well. What has he helped contribute to this offense and maybe even to your game?
Definitely. Well, Coach Montgomery is something, I've said this about Skip, but I'll say it about him as well. He's very consistent. You know what you're going to get out of him day in and day out. He's going to show up. He's going to put in the work. And I think he does some great tape breakdown. I think we do a great job of scouting our opponents, and Coach Montgomery has a lot to do with that. And then, yeah, he's the guy in the booth. He's the eye in the sky during the game. He's the guy giving us feedback and giving Coach Holtz feedback. And obviously he does a great job with the running backs we have, with our tight ends. Those are the primary positions he oversees.
One of the things that has always impressed me about you, Adrian, is you have a very mature sense of the position that you play and the role that you play inside of a football team. I'm asking now, knowing that you were sharing the starting job with a guy that was pretty damn good at Ole Miss himself, was a third-round draft pick in the NFL draft. I wonder, how did you navigate just being able to be a good teammate, but also when it was your time to go, to do the best you can, and then when you had to sit down, follow Matt once again?
It's definitely tough. I mean, it's not an easy thing. And as I'm sure you know, I've been through a variety of different quarterback battles and stints in my career. Even last year at Kansas State, I had to beat out Will Howard. And I would say that was a great lesson learned, because we were able to support each other during different parts of that season. And so I kind of looked at this situation as something similar to that. Like, hey, we both want to get to the NFL. We both want to win, be successful, and we just need to control what we can. Let's get this team better. Let's focus on winning games. And what's meant for me is meant for me. And that goes back to my faith. And what's meant for Matt or for anybody else, that's what's meant for them. That's God's plan. There's bigger things going on than football. And so really, I'd say leaning back on my faith allowed me to just, hey, stay in my lane. Let's continue to lead this team, continue to get better. And what's meant for me will be for me.
I'm curious, knowing that you were part of a Nebraska team that was 3-9, but also had like 9 straight single-digit losses, going to a place like Kansas State where you're knocking off an undefeated Texas Christian and you're winning a Big 12 championship. How does the Birmingham Stallions 6-0 run fit into your story arc?
It's tough. I say this a lot. I feel like now, for me, I don't want to get caught up in reflection. I feel like now is not the time for reflection for me. Now is the time for action. Mm-hmm. And so right now I'm loving being on this team. I'm loving being 6-0, but like I said before, our 1-0 mentality is how we got here. And that's how we're going to continue to have success. And so for me, I mean, it's been great. It's been great learning from these guys. Everyone has a reason for why they're here. And so from a first-round draft pick to an undrafted guy to a guy who's in the league for 5 years, I mean, everyone has a crazy story. And so there's a lot to learn from this individual experience.
Yeah, man. I mean, DeMarcus Gates he got married in March. You know what I'm saying? Like a couple of years ago, I'm watching that dude, break in with the NFL. But one of the other things that I wanted to touch on is you mentioned the talent on the coaching staff. We talked a bit about it, but it dawned on me that you have now played for Skip Holtz, who I'm going to give the national championship to in 1993. I'm also going to talk about Scott Frost and what he was able to do. And then Chris Kleiman, who has been nothing but a winner, right, since he became a head coach. What, if anything, do you think is the same about each one of those guys that you played for that helped make them great?
I would say a passion for the game. Passion for the game that doesn't take much to see. They love ball. They love football. They love being on the practice field on a Tuesday in March. It feels the same then as it does on game day. And I think that just goes to show you how much football matters to them and the impact it's having in their lives and the impact they want to have on the team, the players. I mean, we're all going through this journey, and it's an amazing game how it can affect people differently that way.
Do you like that Coach Holtz doesn't yell at anybody? And it also leads with, I'm not yelling at you. This is something I saw. What did you see?
I do, because I think he's able to keep guys accountable. And you don't have to yell to keep guys accountable. If you're consistent and if the message you're preaching is the same, you can't argue with him. You know where he stands. And I think our guys appreciate that. And really, we're all pros here. I mean, Yeah, we have some younger guys. I mean, we're all pros. We've all had some sort of experience in the NFL one way or another. And we know what we're here to do. So Skip, he should never have to yell at us because we know if we're not getting our job done, we know, hey, this is what you need to do, this and that. All right, let's go do it. Let's go do it. We don't need to sit here and yell about it. Let's go do it. And I think he does a great job with that.
What are you trying to improve upon in the second half of the season?
For me, really, I want to continue to progress as a passer. I feel like I've been able to show that I'm consistently accurate, whether that's deep ball or short game. And really, this is my first year in this offense and Skip's offense. I'm just continuing to learn what he likes, why he's calling certain plays, what he's looking for in terms of reads and keys. And I feel like that's why us as an offense, we've been able to improve, is because we're all just getting a better understanding of what exactly is the standard, what should we be doing versus this look or versus this coverage or this pressure. And so for me, it's just continuing to grow more comfortable in this offense and find a way to win. It's really all that matters.
Adrian Martinez, quarterback for the Birmingham Stallions, big game against the St. Louis Battlehawks this weekend. Thank you so much for taking time to join us here on the #1 college football show.
RJ, thank you.
My thanks once again to Adrian for joining the show. The Birmingham Stallions are 6-0. They get a win against the St. Louis Battlehawks. It'll be a full calendar year since they last had a loss, and I think that's a great way to lead into my UFL power rankings after week 6 going into week 7. And we're going to go from 8 to 1. And at 8, we still have the Arlington Renegades, who are the last and only winless franchise in the UFL, and they find new ways to lose every week. It feels like they're in at least all 6 of these games. They feel like they've been in at one point or another. But it really must strike a nerve with Bob Stoops and that staff to know that they got the goods on both offense and defense from time to time. They just can't put it together in a way that has led to wins. However, this is still a franchise that won the XFL championship last year with 7 losses, and they only got 6 now. Now, it's a different league, and you're playing fewer games, but you get my point here. If they're going to make a run, maybe they get a little help from the teams in front of them in their conference, and perhaps they can shock us all once again. Number 7 on the list, let's talk about the Memphis Showboats, who are 1-5 after yet another loss to the Birmingham Stallions. It's the second time that they played them. It's the second time they gave up 30 or more. It's also the second time they got torched by Adrian Martinez. And, it felt like it was going to get out of hand, but I did not expect Memphis's offense to perform as terribly as it did in the loss. Now, for another week, we've seen John DeFilippo have to take Case Cookis out and put Troy Williams in. Feels like right now you should start the games with Troy Williams, see what you can do with the time you got left, because Case Cookis is running for his life back there. Doesn't seem like he's seeing it very well. They're not getting a whole lot of help out of their run game, and they just can't protect the quarterback. Defensively, Carnell Lake seems to be getting somewhere, only take a couple steps back. They've only got a couple of weeks to try to figure this thing out. One of these spots is already clinched in the USFL conference, so they're still fighting for that second spot, but they got a pretty good team in front of them. Number 6, let's talk about the Houston Roughnecks, who are also 1-5. But look, I thought this was a team that played really well against one of the better teams in the UFL on the road. They just couldn't find a way to pull it out and put it together. And had they been better on third down, they were 3 of 13 against St. Louis. And had they not been penalized as much, they had 8 penalties for 50 yards. I think they had back-to-back drives of offensive line penalties, pre-snap penalties, false starts. It feels like they're right there, right? This is a team that I could just as easily have seen be 3-3 as 1-5. Again, like the Renegades, just finding ways to lose games that they could otherwise win. Number 5 on the list, I have the San Antonio Brahmas, who, after losing their guy at starter in Chase Garbers, I thought maybe this was going to teeter. And then Quentin Dormady came out and put on an absolute show. This was not one of those times, right, where they go up against the defenders on the road. It was really an offense that was having to lean heavily on the run game. We'll talk a little bit more about what that means. But Quentin Dormady all of a sudden doesn't see it as well as I thought he did, especially with Greg Williams not sending his linebackers after the quarterback like he would normally do. He's letting those guys sit back in coverage. And it felt like Quentin Dormady saw 12 guys on the field when there were just 11. That can't keep up if you expect to be that second team into the XFL Conference Championship. But right now I got him at number 5, 4, and 2. Then I got the DC Defenders at number 4. They're 3-3, but that win that they got against the San Antonio Brahmas at Audi Field to split the series between them, Huge for them. Like, they would have not been mathematically eliminated from making the XFL Conference Championship game, but it'd been damn hard if they didn't do it. And this is a game in which they had to have it. And I got to see Jordan Ta'amu step up again, but that's nothing new. That's last year's XFL Offensive Player of the Year. He got help from the wideouts, though, particularly Kelvin Hartman, who had 8 catches for 101 yards in that game, and the only TD, right, to help them seal a victory. And for once, they got some help from the run game. 13 carries for 63 yards by Darius Hagan doesn't sound like a lot, but when you're looking at the offense that I watched what Fred Kites was calling for the Defenders the first 5 weeks of the season, it's quite a bit. You can continue that trend. You got a shot at being in the XFL Conference Championship game and perhaps get one of those games at home. We'll see. We'll see, right? And now, number 3, I want to talk about the Michigan Panthers, who separated, right? They had an opportunity to take advantage of the Showboats and the Houston Roughnecks, both catching L's, and they did. Now, they needed to come from behind to beat the Arlington Renegades, but when they got a guy like Jake Bates making kicks, it feels like they're always going to be in a game because he's good from 60, he's good from 62, he's good from 64. And this one, he had a 42-yarder for the game winner. Fortunate for him, they called a timeout just before he shanked it wide left. They gave him another opportunity, nailed it right down the middle. So this is a man that's made 3 kicks of 60 yards or more and 2 from 62 or more. And of course, that one from 64, which is 2 yards off the NFL record. I think that guy's going to be on an NFL roster come the fall. Like, it's just write that down. Write it down in pen, right? Bookmark the tweak, as the kids say, because Jake Bates is going to help somebody in the place kicking. I really love watching this team play. And when they have him and they're getting great play from Danny Etling, they're getting good enough play from Wes Hills, they're getting some playmakers like Marcus Sims and Trey Quinn out there on the edges, they got an opportunity here. Number 2, St. Louis Battlehawks, right? That's 5-1. That's a team that took a loss week 1. It's got a 5-game win streak. They have a defined identity on offense and defense. They have defined leaders on offense and defense. They lose Darius Shepard, no big deal. They still got Hakeem Butler out there, who's caught 6 catches for 134 with 2 touchdowns in their win last week against the Houston Roughnecks. And A.J. McCarron is not thrown for 300 yards yet, but he is the only guy to throw for 200 or more in every outing that he's had. That dude would be the MVP if there wasn't yet another quarterback in another team that's just that much better than them right now. But we're going to get to find that out as the St. Louis Battlehawks traveled to Birmingham at Protective Stadium to take on the number 1 team in my UFL power rankings, the undefeated Birmingham Stallions. Adrian Martinez makes a good team a great team. And remember, this is spring football's professional dynasty, okay? They have won 13 in a row, guys. If they get this win against St. Louis, they will have not lost a game in a calendar year. Their last loss was to the Houston Roughnecks, May 13th, 2023. It's working for Birmingham. And you could hear from Adrian Martinez just how that thing sings before he even got there. And one of the reasons that he wanted to join is so see how talented they are. And then the continuity that you have in the coaching staff and the coaching mind you have on that staff, it really shouldn't shock anybody that Birmingham is this good. But being 6-0 is ridiculous in a league that is the strongest spring football league we have seen for at least 20 years. Like, I don't want to go too far because we'll talk about NFL Europe and some other leagues there, but they're really good in this league, and yet the Birmingham Stallions come straight over from the legacy USFL to be in the class of the UFL. Adrian Martinez is just that dude, which leads me to our UFL MVP rankings, right? I've had 5, I've had 4, I've had 3. This week I've had 4, right? Number 4 on the list, start right away with John Lovett, San Antonio Brahmas tailback. He rushed for over 150 yards in their in their loss against the DC Defenders. It feels like they're really asking him to carry the load in the backfield. I can understand that. Wade Phillips being a defensive coach, don't turn over the ball, right? A.J. Smith coming to understand the guy from Baylor can absolutely be that guy that they need to carry the load and, frankly, is the best tailback in the UFL, in the XFL conference, right? Full stop. I would make an argument that Ricky Person might be that guy that could challenge him on the USFL side, but when you're talking about putting the ball in somebody's belly and getting hard yards, John Lovett is that guy. Number 3 on the list, guy that I'm very excited about, and I've been waffling about putting him on the list for some time, Jake Bates, kicker in Michigan. Like, I mentioned him once before already, but I'm going to continue to mention him for the rest of the season because it always felt kind of odd to put a specialist on an MVP list. But when you see what it means for them to know that if you get past the 50, he's going to give you a shot, I can't tell you what that does in a league that allows for 2-point and 3-point conversions, but no PATs, right? And where the kickers have been so good. Like, The other guys that he's competing against are a Lou Groza Award winner in Andre Schmidt, who's over at St. Louis. Matt McCrane, who was all Big 12 first team at Kansas State. Both those guys are 12-14, just like Jake Bates, who hadn't kicked a field goal since high school, shows up here, and he is absolutely bringing out the 5-wood and crushing. Just outstanding what he has done for the Michigan Panthers. Then I got to talk about A.J. McCarron, St. Louis Battlehawks quarterback, a guy that asked for his release from the Cincinnati Bengals because he wanted to play in this league. He's got small kids. He wants to show them that dad absolutely was that guy at Alabama and is absolutely that guy for the St. Louis Battlehawks. And I can't express what it means for me to know that A.J. McCarron is the guy. Because in this league, you're not always sure. As a man that's been covering spring football for 3 years, I can tell you, the quarterback position, changeable. If you got one, you hold on tight to him, and usually you get by. Sometimes you have an injury, and then you got to introduce yourself to a dude that perhaps nobody's ever seen, or a guy that you took on a look, not on a guy that you know could play. But A.J. McCarron has been that guy for Anthony Beck and the St. Louis Battlehawks since they formed the franchise back up. And he is taking great advantage of whatever it is that is working on that offense. If it is the run game, cool. I will hand it to the tailbacks. They got 2 100-yard rushers, the only franchise with those. If it is the wide receivers, cool. Hakeem Butler, 6'6", 250. He'll go up and get it. Ja'Cour Pearson, Mighty Mouse. He's going to make it happen. Darius Shepard, who's the best specialist return man when he's healthy in this league. I'll get him the ball too. Really great distributing. It looks a lot like what it looked like when he was actually Alabama playing quarterback, where it's my job is to play point guard and get the ball out to these playmakers. He's doing that at a tremendously high rate. And then number 1 on the list, the most valuable player in the league for me, Adrian Martinez. The Stallions averaged 35.5 points per game in his last couple of starts. He's thrown for 300 yards in 2 of those 3 starts. He's thrown for 350. He's rushed for 150. He is second in the league in rushing, and he's only ran the ball 31 times. Okay? It is the man that wanted the opportunity to show the NFL I can throw the ball down the field, and he has done that. Like, his deep balls to Kelvin Austin this year, to Deion Kane this year, have been outstanding. And he's taking advantage of guys like Jay Sternberger coming across the middle, got that big body and those big hands to reel in catches. They look like a dominant offense when Adrian Martinez is on the field. And that's no shade to Matt Corral, who's an outstanding quarterback. But you get what I mean when you can see a guy who is decisive with the football, who is taking what the defense will give him, who's unafraid to rush for 150 if you want to take away the pass, and throw for 360 if you want to take away his legs. As a defensive coordinator, that would scare the hell out of me, because this guy's just going to make me wrong. Even if I'm in the right defensive set, he's going to find a way to beat me. That is how I define an MVP. And, not for nothing, but this would be the second year in a row that the Birmingham Stallions had an MVP who also played quarterback. And the last time that happened, they won a championship. All right. That is going to do it for this episode of our UFL show. We will be back on Tuesday live talking all things college football. Our number 1 college football show leads of screening are Jack Coakley and Torrin Westfall. They make us better in the film room. Additional support from Kiara Santana and Jim Cunningham. Put the special in our special teams. Producer Javion Duncan makes sure the recruits and the rivals see the cake we bake. Technical director Gabe Sable sends in the signals. Senior producer Catherine Cordaji sees the entire field from the booth. Lead producer Tyler Wojak calls the plays from the sideline, and the play snaps on my clap. Again, we'll see y'all on Tuesday. Till then, stay low, keep those feet driving. Deuces.